tracks, stats, and facts.
www.enterthedome.com. Good people, what's going on? This is Tony from enterthedome.com or Tony the Dome on Twitter, episode 10. We here. Appreciate you guys on the first 9 episodes. Number 10 is a nice little young landmark. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, we here, man. Appreciate it. I appreciate every view, any comment. I'm humbled by it. We're brand new with the podcast by ourselves. But shout out to Championship Round Boxing and That Time in Hip Hop, 2 podcasts that I've been involved with for the last few years. It's a good look. Peace to Vague and to Rob. With that being said, episode 10, the 30 greatest hip hop albums of all time. Now look, we know that it's all subjective. We know that everyone look at albums different. Age has something to do with it. Region has something to do with it. It's all perspective. But for all of my followers and people that appreciate my takes, these are mine. So let's get it started. Let's not waste any time. At number 30, De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising. Now, De La Soul is one of my favorite rap groups. De La Soul has done a tremendous job with creating dope albums. Their discography is incredible. What can you say? We know this already. 3 Feet High and Rising, being their debut album in 1989, is one of the first albums that really took skits to another level. It made it feel like you was following somewhat of a story. Of course, Me, Myself, and I. It was a great single. The video was funny. It showed a daisy age kind of thing. You know, it was the Native Tongue's early masterpiece. You know, of course, following De La Soul, you had the Jungle Brothers, Tribe Called Quest, and then, you know, the Native Tongues was deep with affiliates like Moni Love and Queen Latifah, Leaders of New School, later Black Sheep. Even you can consider at some point mid-90s, Mos Def and Common and others. But for me, 3 Feet High and Rising was the beginning in terms of a lot of big respectability, man. I love plug tuning. You know what I'm saying? I know. I mean, the production was great. It took you on a journey, man, to Long Island, if I'm not mistaken. And it was just an amazing rap album. Now, at some point in 96, I started thinking that Stakes is High was their best album. But Stakes is High is not a landmark album. 3 Feet High and Rising is a landmark album. And I would give it a slight edge on the all-time list over Balloon Mind State, over De La Soul is Dead, and over Stakes is High. Those are my favorite De La Soul albums. Now, Grind Date is up there as well, but I would say on an all-time list, given impact, creativity, and things of that nature, I would say that 3 Feet High and Rising would be their magnum opus. But my personal favorite De La Soul album is Stakes is High, 1996. We've talked about 1996 in episode 1, just an amazing year, and De La was right there in the mix with that album. But I'm going to go with 3 Feet High and Rising at number 30. 29, NWA Straight Outta Compton. Now look, I know some people are probably thinking that NWA should be higher than this. Well, you know, if you make any list, top 25, top 30, top 50 in a culture that's been around for probably over 50 years now, you've done something special. Impact, of course, Straight Outta Compton will be ranked higher, but this is strictly on the music. F the Police, Express Yourself. Oh man, just Straight Outta Compton title track. It's a great album. MC Ren, Ice Cube was definitely carrying the load on the lyrical side. Dope album. You know, it came out the same year that Easy Does It came out, and you know, Easy was a star of NWA. But of course, he wasn't the greatest MC. But the impact of Straight Outta Compton can't be denied. It's one of the biggest albums in hip hop history. 5 stars or whatever. One rumor was, of course, the FBI wrote a letter about NWA and to NWA and to Jerry Heller and to Ruthless Records. Um, because of F the police, they felt like it was an attack on law enforcement, et cetera, et cetera. But of course, we found out just a few years later when Rodney King got his ass kicked that it all made sense. The Rodney King beating was reminiscent of the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, systematic racism, police brutality, et cetera, et cetera. We've covered some American history in some previous episodes, and it is what it is. So, Straight Outta Compton was necessary. The music was great, even though I feel like Niggas for Life production was probably better than Straight Outta Compton. The message and focus on Straight Outta Compton, I think, was better because you had MC Ren, I believe DOC, and Ice Cube doing the writing. You know what I'm saying? So as far as comparing to Niggas for Life is more raw and raunchy, I guess. But Straight Outta Compton is the probably the standard for West Coast hip hop in terms of impact. You know what I'm saying? So I could see someone having it probably as high as the top 10. You know what I'm saying? I'm not mad at that. I love Straight Outta Compton. It's one of the best albums on the West Coast. There's a few albums on the West Coast I feel are better, but at number 29, Straight Outta Compton, man, the legendary NWA. 28, Big Pun, Capital Punishment. Now look, Big Pun is one of the sons of Kool G Rap. Of course, Kool G Rap has a lot of sons, including Big L and Styles and Kiss and Ray and Ghost and Cormega and Nas and Nature and AZ and everyone is probably influenced by Kool G Rap. You know what I'm saying? And Big Pun is no exception. Big Pun said when he met, G Rap told a story about when Pun met him, he kissed his ring, literally. You know what I'm saying? I believe Fat Joe might have agreed on this story, but at any rate, Capital Punishment. You know what? I heard Big Pun on was it Off the Books with Beat Nuts? Then I heard him a verse here or there, I believe, on early some 90s Fat Joe joints. But when I heard You Ain't a Killer on Soul in the Hole soundtrack, which, first of all, if you haven't heard Soul in the Hole soundtrack, you need to get that. It's a classic. It's probably one of the best hip-hop soundtracks. So get that Soul in the Hole. Nevertheless, You Ain't a Killer was on Soul in the Hole, and when I first heard it, I was like, yo, this that Pun dude? And it was the lyrics, the flow, the beat, everything. It made me anticipate his album. It did not disappoint. I've said this before on Twitter that the first time I opened that pack, the CD for Capital Punishment, I heard the first track, Beware. That was the first time since Biggest Who Shot You that the hairs literally raised on my arm. Beware by Pun. He was challenging them seas, man. The beat was grim and grimy, dark. Man, You Ain't a Killer was on the album, super lyrical with Black Thought. Oh my God, Capital Punishment title track is simply amazing. Oh man, the track with Prodigy and Inspector Deck, the track you came up with Nori. Come on, man. I mean, Capital Punishment was, I believe, it's the first time a Latino went platinum. It's an amazing album. It's lyrically flawless. Of course, the only thing I didn't really like on the album was I don't like sex skits on albums. They're corny to me. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, man, this album, You Ain't a Player. Oh, man, Still Ain't a Player. The remix. Oh, my goodness, man. Capital Punishment 28, man. I mean, it's pretty much a crash course on lyrical perfection, perfecting a flow. I'm sure Kool G Rap was proud when he heard Capital Punishment from Big Pun, man. So that's at number 28, Capital Punishment. 27, Kendrick Lamar, Good Kid, Mad City. Listen, for me, it had been a couple of years, personally, since I heard something that really moved me and pushed me. I had followed K-Dot since his early days doing freestyles. I had some of his little mixtape joints he was doing when he was called K-Dot. He had these joints called Vanity Slave 1 and Vanity Slave 2. You know what I'm saying? He had a bunch of little freestyles, a bunch of nice joints. Section 80 was incredible. You know what I mean? The Reagan era, High Power, Cushion Corinthians, which you can check into the dome.com. I have an article breaking down Cushion Corinthians. So when I heard Section 80, I knew he was special, absolutely special, generational talent, etc. I consider that his debut album. Some call it some other kind of project, mixtape. It's an album. It's all original music. It's an album. But when I heard about Good Kid, Mad City, you just kind of wonder, can that person keep that same momentum? And Lord knows, hearing Good Kid, Mad City was so refreshing, so dope. I mean, what do you want? The freestyle joint on there, the Sing About Me is one of the best rap songs, man. I just remember hearing it in this generation, man. The Poetic Justice joint with Drake, the joints with Dr. Dre. I mean, oh my God, man. Good Kid, Mad City. I'm sure that a lot of West Coast hip hop fans felt so proud that it's in the same vein to me as, when some of the greats in the West Coast dropped their magnum opus albums. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's an amazing piece of work, lyrically flawless, creative production. Even the album cover showing you a young Kendrick, I think on his dad's lap in the kitchen. It had that real feel. It kind of felt like his diary to a degree. I mean, Section 80 was him really rhyming. And don't get me wrong, he was really rhyming on Good Kid, Mad City, but it felt like his like Me Against the World. You know what I'm saying? It was for me, it was a flawless album. I have no there's nothing can be added to Good Kid, Mad City, man. When I heard it, I immediately thought he just went another notch from Section 80. What is he gonna do next? He's a certified star now. If he stay on this path, he's gonna be a legend. I love Black Boy Fly also. You know what I'm saying? He talked about the game on Black Boy Fly also. It was cool. He gave him some props and then just talked about the interaction with the game. And of course the game talked about at some point on interviews that he took Kendrick Lamar and J Rock and everyone on tour with him before they opened up for him. So that Black Boy Fly kind of stole the story. And he also talking about Aaron Aflalo, who I think ended up playing for the Orlando Magic. He played several years in the NBA. They all went to high school together. So one verse is about Aflalo, one verse about game and stuff like that. But again, Kendrick he killed it, man. Good Kid, Mad City, man, at number 27. 26, Commons B. Episode 9 was about me breaking down It's Your World, the last track on Commons B album, which is one of the best hip hop songs I've ever heard. I mean, like I said, but Common, he had a great career, and then of course he had that Electric Circus, and I think a lot of people thought that he was trying to be a little bit too creative and the Erica Badu effect, and so people wanted him to go back to that resurrection and that one day it'll make sense and that like Water for Chocolate. But what Common did on B with Kanye West was and Jay Dilla, because Jay Dilla did 2 tracks on there, and one being It's Your World, which to me is the best track on that album and possibly the best track of Common's career to me. That and I used to love a Song for Asada might be his top tier songs, but they made a concise 11-track album, kind of reminiscent of Illmatic Nas or the 80s Run DMC self-titled album or Criminal Minded and By All Means Necessary, by any means necessary. I mean, so it was concise. There was nothing wasted. The Corner is a legendary track to me. I think they did a remix of The Corner with Scarface, Mos Def, and someone else, I believe. They Say, The Food. Come on, man. I mean, Commons B, like I said, it didn't have a bad track on there. You know what I'm saying? Common was back in the zone. He was back on his B-boy. He was, I felt, rejuvenated. You know what I'm saying? And I know Kanye, being the person he is and was at that time, he always looked up to Common, both being Chicago guys and stuff like that. I'm sure that he motivated him, to end up putting out something truly amazing with B. So Yeah, man. I mean, that's what it is. Number 20, 26. 25 is the Roots Ill Death Half Life. Now, you probably remember a few days ago, I talked about Ill Death Half Life being my favorite album out of 1996. That's saying a lot. If you consider the albums that came out in 1996, Reasonable Doubt, It Was Written, Muddy Waters, Iron Man, Hell on Earth, The Score, J. Rules, The Wrath of the Math. I mean, it goes on and on and on. For me to say The Roots, Philadelphia is my favorite album out of 1996, and me having it in the top third of all time says a lot. You know, from Organics to Do You Want More, they brought it home on Philadelphia Half Life. I mean, what they do. Section is my joint. You know, the joint with Q-Tip, the joint with Common. I mean, I can name all of them, but you can go look it up and check it out. It was hip hop clones. It was hip hop personified. The beats banged, the lyrics banged. They kind of put a mark in the sand, same way Daylight did with Stakes is High and J. Rule with Wrath of the Math, and said, you know, we don't like where hip hop is right now. The flossing, the bottles popping, the clothes, the chicks, whatever. I think that, you know, they were on that vibe. And that was episode 1 of the Dome podcast that we talked about the hip hop war of 1996. And Hill of Death Half Life was one of the landmark albums of that year that was staging war on the current state of hip hop. But it's just an amazing album, amazing production. It was my favorite Roots album. It's one of my favorite albums in history hip hop. And it is what it is, man. So let's go down to number 24. Jay-Z Reasonable Doubt. We've talked about Jay-Z a little bit on Twitter lately, right? You know, when Jay-Z drops a verse, he did a joint on Pusha T song, the internet goes crazy. And it makes sense because for some people, Jay-Z is the GOAT. For some people, Jay-Z is the top 5 MC, top 10 MC. Anything outside of really top 5, but we're going to say top 10, just being generous, is really ludicrous if you have them outside of that. I have an episode talking about would Jay-Z blow up if Biggie was alive. And of course, you have to go look at that. I broke down what I felt is the reality of Jay-Z while Biggie was living and what would happen if he would have continued to live. You know what I'm saying? But Reasonable Doubt, for me, is an underground classic. People like to say that Jay-Z wasn't known in 1996. Well, he was. Everyone in New York, every hip-hop head in New York knew about Jay-Z and Reasonable Doubt. They had heard Dead Presidents 1 and 2. They had heard Feeling It. Ain't No Nigga was on Nutty Professor soundtrack. It was popping in the clubs and popping on the radio. You know what I'm saying? He ended up going gold with the album. So I still don't understand why people acting like Jay-Z was a nobody in 96. 96 just happened to be one of the top 3 greatest years in hip-hop history. And also still the East Coast, West Coast thing was going on with Pac and Biggie and Nas and Death Row and Bad Boy. So, of course, the Fugees also sold like 10 million records or whatever. So, yeah, it was a big year. So, you know, he wasn't a focal point. But like I posted today on Twitter, today is April the 12th, I posted a video of Pac at the House of Blues dissing Nas and other people, but I also said in a tweet that Pac dissed Jay-Z on Machiavelli. And also there was like 4 or 5 other unreleased songs from the Machiavelli sessions where he dissed Jay-Z. People knew who Jay-Z was. He had Brooklyn's Finest with Biggie on his debut album. So get out of here, man. Reasonable Doubt, Regrets, Bring It On with Jazzo and Sauce Money, produced by Primo. Can I Live, produced by Irv Gotti, one of the Jay-Z best songs to me. The Evils, produced by Primo. Ski laced the album, Dead Presidents. I think Ski did Feeling It. Yeah, he did do Feeling It because Feeling It was Camp Lo's song first, and Jay-Z took Camp Lo's song. There's a version with Camp Lo and Ski Beats rhyming over Feeling It. That's the actual real song. And Jay-Z took the song. He kind of took their flow on it too, man. It was kind of funny if you go back and listen to it. So yeah, man, that's where we are. Number 25 was The Roots. Number 24 was Jay-Z Reasonable Doubt. Number 23 was Reflection Eternal, Talib Kweli and High Tech. Listen, Reflection Eternal is one of the greatest rap albums I've ever heard. I mean, the blast is hip hop personified. For Women is the last song on the album. It's a bonus track where he actually breaks down interactions and the history of these black women I mean, Talib was really on one. Talib Kweli's talent and discography is often in the shadow of his social media antics. I mean, he really on Twitter at some point before he got banned, go back and forth with fans. I had a couple of good interactions with him, but a lot of people didn't. And I think he went on IG and was doing the same thing. I think he's very sensitive with fans. He don't know how to tunnel vision that thing and not pay fans any attention or haters any attention or whatever. But on Train of Thought, after the Black Star album, coming out with Train of Thought, the production from High Tech, the song structure, the focus, there's not a bad song on Reflection Eternal, and I can actually have Reflection Eternal even higher than this. I mean, it is a stellar album. You know what I'm saying? Like, great replay value. I mean, yo, go look at that track listed, man. Go skim it again on YouTube. It's phenomenal, man. So 22, biggest Life After Death. Look, Life After Death could be anywhere from 4 or 5 to this ranking I have right here with number 22. Life After Death was Biggie showing that he is an MC in terms of everything that involves songwriting, club tracks, street bangers, storytelling. Some will say it's bloated. A couple of songs can be taken off. Yeah, you can take another off with Lil Kim. That Player Hater joint where he's singing the whole time. That would have been a good 1 minute skit. Kind of reminds me of Lil Brother's The Minstrel Show, that song Cheating, like track 5 or something like that. That shit was like 5 minutes long or something. It should have been a 1 minute skit of Fonte singing. But nevertheless, because that kind of stuff to me can throw the vibe of an album off. But let's look at it like this. Even if you take 2 or 3 songs off Life After Death, Biggie was still flawless as an MC on there. Notorious Thugs is my favorite song on the album. Nobody's to Somebody Kill You, Sky's the Limit, Niggas Bleed, 10 Great Commandments. Look, I wouldn't even be mad if some fan thought it was the greatest rap album of all time, man. You know what I'm saying? That's just really how good Life After Death is, man. It's stellar. It's amazing. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. Kicking the Door, Bombing on Nas, J. Rule, Boot Camp, Pac, everyone. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it is what it is, man. Big was in the zone, and I often say, how would the album be after Life After Death? Because what he did on that album was just something incredible, man. So number 22, Biggie Smalls, Life After Death. 21, Jizzle, The Liquid Swords. It's funny because Liquid Swords is trending again today, and we had it trending a couple of months ago. We had it trending, man. Liquid Swords, man. You know what I'm saying? Dark, gritty, cold world, labels. Baba from Killer Priest. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what can you say about Liquid Swords, man? It was concise. It wasn't too long. No unnecessary skits. RZA was still on potentially the best run in the history of hip hop, or right there, top 2 or 3 runs as a producer. You can argue DJ Premier's run. You can argue runs by Kanye West in terms of producing projects. But I would say that RZA might have the greatest run from 93 Wu-Tang 36 Chambers to 97 Forever. When you're thinking about Cuban Links to Cal, Return of 36 Chambers, Iron Man, Only Bit for Cuban Links. Some of the greatest albums in hip-hop history he did in a 4-year span, man. And Liquid Swords was just RZA being the head of Voltron for Wu-Tang, lyrically sharp. Like I said, dark, gritty production. Even the videos was grimy. The guest appearances from Wu-Tang, stellar. It's trending for a reason, man. Liquid Swords could easily be ranked even higher. Can't hate on it, man. You know what I'm saying? What we at? Tupac, Me Against the World, number 20. Tupac's best album to me. I was just listening to If I Die Tonight in the car a couple hours ago. Nothing like the old school, which is funny. Listen to nothing like the old school because he was giving De La Soul props on there. And they turn around, 2 albums later, and this De La Soul on Machiavelli. But I think that's because of not just Balloon Mind State, because I think it got past that. I think it was because of the way some of them shots they kind of took on Pac on Stakes is High. That song Den and It, like I said on another episode, when Pa said, like those West Coast kids that be throwing up signs, I hate a Buster, unless his name is Buster Rhymes. I think Pac heard that and look at De La Soul, on Machiavelli, I think Against All Odds, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, man, Me Against the World, So Many Tears, Dear Mama, Death Around the Corner, out, I felt like it was Pac in his essence. I felt Me Against the World was a combination of Tupacalypse Now, Streaking for My Niggas, and Thug Life. I think that's when he put it all together. And I think it went number one while he was locked up. You know what I'm saying? Some might cite All Eyes on Me or even Machiavelli's Pop best work, but I honestly believe that Me Against the World was the greatest piece of work that Tupac did, and it felt honest. It felt legit. It didn't feel like he was trying to force the gangster persona, even though it did have a gangster feel to it on certain tracks. I just felt like it was a young man conflicted because he was thoughtful, poetic, also grew up poor, also saw violence. I started some paranoia from getting robbed prior to that album. I think that it was just everything. I think it was Tupac. I think that if there was a memoir on Tupac, that would be it. That would be Me Against the World, man. At number 20. Number 19, Mos Def, Black on Both Sides. Listen, I said on Twitter not too long ago that Mos Def, at his apex of focus and concentration, is easily one of the greatest MCs of all time. He really is. The song Hip Hop starting the album off perfect. Perfect. But before that, the intro, he said, people always asking him about hip hop. What's going on with hip hop? He said, what's going on with us? Hip hop is a reflection of the black community. He talked about that in his intro, going right into the song Hip Hop. And in hip hop, he said, hip hop went from selling crack to smoking it. You know what I'm saying? Umi says, there's Joint Brooklyn, Mr. Nigga. Oh my God. I did a article on the Dome, IntoTheDome.com. I talked about the word nigga as far as like how it relates in hip hop. And the song Mr. Nigga, the things that Mos Def said, I don't know how that doesn't resonate with any black person and black man, you know what I'm saying, in the midst of non-black people. It's really heartfelt the way he broke down Mr. Nigga, man. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, just an amazing album, Black on Both Sides, coming after Mos Def Tyler Quali Black Star album. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing that, for me, there's nothing you can add to Black on Both Sides. Perfect album, man. Nothing else need to be said. 19, Ice Cube, America's Most Wanted. Look, you can argue America's Most Wanted or Death Certificate as Ice Cube's best album. Gangsta Fairy Tale, man. Oh my God. Look, Ice Cube got with the Bomb Squad and put together something special. Bomb Squad, for those who might not know, is the production group from Public Enemy. And think about this, a dude from California, leave NWA, the biggest group on the West Coast at the time, and maybe even the biggest act in hip hop at the time. Well, you can argue them and Public Enemy. He goes to New York, and he gets with Chuck D and the Shockley brothers, and they put together a masterpiece. And that started Ice Cube's run, which is still to this day one of the top 5 runs in hip hop history. If you look at America's Most Wanted, Death Certificate, Kill at Will, Lethal Injection, all of this stuff, man. Then it goes into West Side Connection, whatever. Ice Cube, one of my top 10 MCs of all time. America's Most Wanted, you can argue it's one of the greatest debut albums in the history of hip hop, man. Let's keep it moving. Number 17, BDP, By All Means Necessary. I'm on record saying that By All Means Necessary is better than Criminal Minded. I know Criminal Minded gets a lot of acclaim because obviously Skylar Rock was still living. The Bridge is Over, Bombed on Queensbridge, MC Shan, Marlon Marl, Shantae, South Bronx. It became an anthem, and we know the hip hop with Cool Herc and South Bronx, the essence of hip hop. So you have South Bronx, and of course, Shan came out, killed that noise. You had a legendary battle with them. So Criminal Minded is gonna get a lot of love because of that. But by all means necessary, to me, was BDP's greatest album before KRS started doing the solo albums. I mean, Illegal Business is my joint, my philosophy. You know what I'm saying? I'm still number one. I mean, just nuts, man. Let's keep it going. Nothing else need to be said. 16 EPMD, Strictly Business, man. So Strictly Business, EPMD is one of the most sampled groups in the history of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? That's just what they are. You know what I'm saying? It's my thing. You got to chill. You're only a customer. Eric and Parrish, man, they started a run of like 4 dope albums back to back. They probably have one of the best discographies for rap groups, probably top 10, because they didn't have too many misses. You know what I'm saying? Like, they really came out the box with, stellar. And again, they are heavily sampled to this day. It was dope hearing them on King's Disease 2 with Nas and Eminem. Salute the EPMD, man. All right. Number 16 is Strictly Business, like I said. 15, Outkast, ATLiens. I heard Elevators, and I was like, man, they did it again. They actually did it again. After Southern Playlist of Cadillac Music, classic debut, Source Awards, new group. You know what I'm saying? All of this stuff like that, man. They came out with Elevators, if I'm not mistaken. Big Boy and Andre produced Elevators. Babylon. Wheels of Steel. The ET. Listen, man, ATLiens was strictly dopeness. That's really what it was, man. Like, what can you say about it, man? You can argue it's Outkast's best album. But that's what goes on when you got like 3 or 4 classics in your discography too, man. So you can debate that, man. Number 15, again, is ATLS. 14 is Snoop Dogg, Doggy Style. The biggest debut album in the history of hip hop, most anticipated. Only person can rival with that on a national level is 50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying. Snoop Dogg was a star. Doggy Style dropped. He was the biggest rapper in the world. It started on the Chronic and went right on into Doggy Style. I mean, the Lottie Dottie joint, the Shiznit, What's My Name? I mean, do I need to do the listing? Amazing production from Dr. Dre. Snoop flow was so fluid all the way through it. Legendary. Nothing else need to be said about Doggy Style, man. You can even put Doggy Style in the top 10 if you wanted to. You know what I'm saying? So it's number 14 on my list, but it could be higher. 13. Now look, I've played with this more than one time. This album could be number 1, actually. But just for politic purposes, number 14, like I said, Snoop Doggy Style. 13, A Tribe Called Quest, The Low End Theory. Now, some people might say, Tony, man, what in the world, dude? You know good and well, Low End Theory is one of the top 2 or 3 albums in hip hop history. Well, maybe it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could easily do this list over again and have the Low End Theory at number 1 and number 2. You know, starting with Excursions and ending it with Scenario. That might be the best intro, best outro to an album in the history of the culture. You know what I'm saying? Then you got Check the Rhyme on there. You got Jazz on there. Sky Pager. You got Bugging Out. You know, Verses from the Abstract. I mean, the jazz they did on there, the sampling, opened the doors for Diggable Planets and a lot of people after them. What can I say, man? I mean, you know, we have it at 13, but it could easily be in the top 2 or 3. It is what it is, man. I mean, I just got to rank it the way I can, man. Let me know what Low End Theory is for you. Okay, now we go on to Soul Food, Goody Mob. Now let me tell you something. You might think this is really high or too high. But let me be perfectly honest with you. Goody Mob Soulful album is one of the best hip hop albums I've ever heard. It's one of the best albums and music I've ever heard, man. I mean, starting with the Prayer and Free, you end that joint with The Day After. You have the joint about your mom on there, Seal Therapy on there. I mean, it really made you feel proud to be from the South. It was even more Southern than Outkast albums. I mean, it was like really been at the dinner table, man. It gave you the different type of sense of pride. CeeLo showed that he was a star, but everyone got off from Good to Mob on Soul Food. I would even go off to say Soul Food is one of the most underrated albums in the history of the culture. Go back now with no bias. Listen to Soul Food all the way through. It is stellar, man. Thought process, man. Andre went crazy on it. Man, what else I need to say about that? Nothing else. Number 11, The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. A lot of people don't even know that Slick Rick produced about 80% of this album himself. Slick Rick made the beat for Children's Story and like Hey Young World, if I'm not mistaken. And I think the Shockley brothers did some production, but Slick Rick did a lot of production on it. This is the standard for storytelling. This is the standard for smooth swag to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, Slick Rick is one of the most unique rappers of all time. The Great Adventures of Slick Rick is one of the greatest albums of all time. I mean, I have it number 11, but you can put it anywhere on this list, and I think it'll be sufficient. You can have it anywhere in the top 10. I don't think a lot of people would really argue that. You know what I'm saying? Teenage Love, The Moment of Fear. I mean, it's just a landmark album in the culture, man. Number 10, Mobb Deep, the infamous album. And this might be the biggest jump from a debut to a sophomore effort I've ever seen. Havoc and Prodigy was like really young when Juvenile Hell came out. But when the video The Shook Ones came out, it was like, well, wait a minute, what these are dudes from Hit It From the Back or whatever. I mean, these are young dudes from Juvenile Hell. Man, the infamous, it personifies 90s East Coast rap. Havoc was stellar. Q-Tip was, like some people know, helped executive produces a few tracks on there. Havoc is on record saying that Q-Tip gave him all these nuggets and mentored him throughout the infamous. Listen to those drums. The drums you hear on the infamous from Havoc. Listen to the Low End Theory, Men and Marauders, and People Instinctive Travels from Q-Tip. You hear the drums. You hear the influence. Queens in the house, man. Q-Tip helped them out, man. But the infamous Shook Ones is top 5 grimiest records in hip hop history. Temperatures Rising, Up North Trip. I don't need to say nothing else, man. Number 9, Outkast again. They on here, man. Aquemini, man. Aquemini is the combination for me of Southern Playlist and ATLs together. It was the perfect blend of both of those albums, and both those albums classics. I think Aquemini is their most complete album. That Chunky Fire is crazy. Liberation is probably one of the best songs ever. And I'm not talking about just hip hop. Liberation with Erykah Badu is one of the best songs I've ever heard. Period. It's monumental. It gives you a black pride. It gives you a sense of meaning of history. It's just incredible. Artist Storyteller 1 and 2. Return to G, one of the best intros ever. Andre just went bananas on it. Aquemini title track. Y'all Scared. Look, man, Y'all Scared is my favorite song on the album. Even Tyson can get laid down with this too, you know what I'm saying? And Big Boy got busy on that too, man. But yeah, man, Aquemini, man, that's what it is. Rank number 9. Number 8, Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers. They changed the game. Snoop and Dre was going crazy on the West Coast, and then here comes 36 Chambers and Midnight Marauders and all of that stuff on the East Coast. Protect Your Neck comes out. Some people are like, man, this karate stuff, man, we ain't feeling that. But then when you gave a real listen, it was like we haven't seen anything like Wu-Tang Clan. And even when ODB on the video, it's like we never seen nothing like this. Stella, Cream, Cash Rules Everything Around Me. So simple. I mean, what can you say about 36 Chambers, man? It's a landmark New York album, but it also changed the game. it opened up the doors for Takal to come and Cuban Links and Liquid Swords, and Iron Man, and Forever, and all. It all started with 36 Chambers and the Method Man song also, and just man, there have never been other Wu Tang, man. They are the most unique conglomerate in history, hip hop history, probably. You know what I'm saying? And that W is probably the most recognized symbol in hip hop around the world, globally, what have you. You know what I'm saying? But it all started with 36 Chambers, man. Amazing album. Number 7, Biggest Ready to Die. I remember Kumo D book. There's a guy on the mic, the 50 greatest MCs. He talked about Biggie, you know what I'm saying? Like this book right here. There's a guy on the mic. Can you see that? My thing is going out. There's a guy on the mic, the 50 greatest MCs of all time. He talked about the greatness of Biggie, and Biggie really displayed that on Ready to Die. I mean, thankful for Puff also. I know a lot of people don't want to admit, but Puff made sure that you get the Juicy and the One More Chance so people could really get a chance to grasp Biggie as a total artist and total MC. Because again, I would tell y'all, if one for Puff, Ready to Die would be like 16 songs of Machine Gun Funk. And that could end up Biggie being like, Into the Stage, Black Moon, and J. Rule's Sunrise in the East, and one of those OC World Life, one of those really, hard East Coast bangers, but didn't get the crossover appeal that was deserved. And Biggie deserved that with his skill set, man. But yeah, Ready to Die, the title track, Give Me the Loot, Warning, The What with Method Man, who's the only guest on the album, Suicide Thoughts. You end that with a birth, and you begin the album with Being Born. You end it with the Suicide Thoughts. I mean, Everyday Struggle is one of my favorite rap songs, period. Big was just in a zone, man. It's an amazing piece of work. It's an amazing album, period. It's just that simple. Number 6, Airbnb Rakim Paid in Full. What can I say? I have an article called Rakim to Miles Davis on the microphone. Or Miles Davis of hip hop, and he is the greatest MC to me. You saw my list of the 25 greatest MCs, and Rakim was number 1. You know what I'm saying? Paid in Full, Airbnb's President, Move the Crowd, Paid in Full title track. It is what it is, man. I always look at hip hop as before Rakim and after Rakim. And this album is the reason why. Let's keep it moving. Number 5, Only Built for Cuban Links, Raekwon, Ghost, featuring Ghostface. One of the most lyrical albums of all time. Cuban Links is like watching or listening to a mafia movie. It was one of the few albums I feel like is truly flawless. North Star is a perfect ending to an album. The guest appearance from Wu-Tang was incredible. Nas on Verbal Intercourse, incredible. Ice Cream. I mean, what do you say? I don't think anyone believe Cuban Links is anything less than stellar or anything less than a classic. I can talk about Cuban Links all day. I remember on other podcasts that time in hip hop, the first episode was about breaking down Only Built for Cuban Links. I mean, again, it's like watching the Goodfellas, man. It's like watching the Godfather 1 and 2. It can be considered, and I wouldn't be mad if somebody had it ranked even higher. I wouldn't be mad if someone had the best album in hip hop history. I really think it's that good. Some people might think it's a little hyperbole, I'm overrating it, but I really think, Rainy Days, man, Incarcerated Scarfaces. It's perfect, man. Let's keep it moving. Number 4, Nas Illmatic. Nas was like 18, 19 writing this album. Everyone knows the story of Illmatic. It pretty much started the multiple producers. After that, a lot of people started having multiple producers on albums. Before that, most of the time, it was an internal team or like one person doing all of the beats for artists. You know what I'm saying? But, Nas went out and they had LES, who was his boy from Queens, Pete Rock and Primo and Lars Professor. And, so that's what it was, Q-Tip. You know what I'm saying? So we don't have to talk about Illmatic. We know the history of it. We talk about it often on social media. It is what it is, man. Some people have it as the greatest album of all time. Today I have it at number 4. And Nas is my favorite MC, by the way. Number 3, my favorite album of all time. Tribe Called Quest, The Midnight Marauders. It is a perfect rap album. The Midnight Marauders, Q-Tip, again, he put in People Instinctive Travels and the Low End Theory together. Lyrics to Go is my favorite rap song. God Lives Through is amazing. I mean, Award Tour, what do you need to say about that? I mean, Electric Relaxation is one of the greatest rap songs of all time, in my opinion, as well, and one of the dopest videos. Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Marauders. I've never got tired of the album. Like I said, I posted on Twitter that this is the definition of a perfect rap album, and that's what Midnight Marauders is. Number 2, 1 and 2 can go back and forth. I've argued this internally with myself, but for the sake of this list, this is what I'm doing. Number 2 is Dr. Dre The Chronic, the best engineered album in hip hop history. It still sounds fresh and loud as hell today. I mean, it sounds like he just made it last year. It was made in probably 1990. You know what I'm saying? Snoop became a star at the deep cover on The Chronic. Lil Ghetto Boys, one of the most powerful rap songs I've ever heard. The Chronic is pretty much the musical version of the LA Riots. He addressed the Rodney King beating basically throughout the album, and the skits and everything. I mean, it's really a, you know what I'm saying, buck at the system. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's Let Me Ride is great. Like I said, Lil Ghetto was one of my favorite rap songs ever. You know, some raw songs on there, some gangster songs on there. You know, again, what can you say about The Chronic? You've heard it all. You know the track listing. You know what The Chronic means to West Coast hip hop, and you know what The Chronic means to hip hop in general. So we'll just leave that at that, man. You can do your own research. If you haven't heard The Chronic, then you're probably watching the wrong podcast or the right podcast. You know, number 1, the Bomb Squad put together something amazing after Yo Bum Rush the Show. They created It Takes a Nation, a Million. I mean, this is probably the first album that took engineering and production to the next level in hip hop. It sounded like nothing else we had heard. Chuck D and the Chocolate Brothers, the Bomb Squad production team, were quite amazing. You know, what can you say about It Takes a Nation, a Million? It's a powerful album. It's funny because on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums, and not that I take Rolling Stones to heart, but of course they had Public Enemy is ranked the highest rap album on that list, and every professional publication pretty much gave It Takes a Nation, a Million 5 stars. And if you think about the songs on there, and then think about their concerts back in the day, it was a mixed crowd of black and white people, and a lot of white college kids loved the Public Enemy. But Chuck D was raw. S1Ws, Flavor Flav. I mean, Black Steel and Hour of Chaos is my favorite Public Enemy song. I got a letter from the government the other day, opened and read it. They said we were suckers. They wanted me for the army ever. Picture me giving a damn. I said never. You know what I'm saying? 9/11 Baseheads, which, you know, was tackling, you know, the drug epidemic that had really hit the black community. You know, and we talked about this before with how, you know, drugs in the community, Iran-Contra, Reagan era, you know what I'm saying, and how a lot of poor people of color, and just poor people in general, were getting different prison sentences for crack versus cocaine. But 9/11 Baseheads, you know, it's just like Houdini. The freaks come out at night. Like I said, in another video, we in here in North Carolina in Winston, we call people on drugs rock stars back then. You know what I'm saying? So 9/11 Baseheads, man, bring the noise. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a powerful album. You'll see it number 1 on a lot of lists, or you'll see it somewhere in the top 10 on a lot of lists. A lot of production changed after It Takes a Nation, a Million came out. Again, Chuck D really established himself as one of the grown men of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And check out IntoTheDome.com. I have an article on Chuck D as well. And Chuck D is a very nice brother. You know, I've interacted with him before on Twitter. He's responded before over the years, and things like that, man. He always came off very humble, and he's very important to the culture. I think he's underrated in the culture. I have him as one of my top 20 greatest MCs of all time on an earlier episode. And that's what it is, man. Those are my top 30 albums of all time. What do you think about the listing? Let me run through it again real quick. Number 1, Public Enemy, Takes a Nation a Million. Number 2, Dr. Dre, The Chronic. Number 3, Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Marauders. Number 4, Nas Illmatic. Number 5, Raekwon, Only Built for Cuban Links. Number 6, Eric B. and Rakim, Paid in Full. Number 7, Biggie, Ready to Die. Number 8, Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers. Number 9, Outkast, Criminal. Number 10, Mobb Deep, Infamous. Number 11, Slick Rick, Great Adventures of Slick Rick. Number 12, Goody Mob, Soul Food. Number 13, A Tribe Called Quest, Low End Theory. 14, Snoop Dogg, Doggy Style. 15, Outkast, ATLians. 16, EPMD, Strictly Business. 17, Boogie Down Productions, By All Means. 18, Ice Cube, America's Most Wanted. 19, Mos Def, Black on Both Sides. 20, Tupac, Millions the World. 21, Jizzle, Liquid Swords. 22, Biggie, Ready to Die. 23, Reflection Eternal. Train of Thought. 24, Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt. 25, Roots, Ill or Death, Half-Life. 26, B by Common. 27, Kendrick Lamar, Goods, Kid, Mad City. 28, Big Pun, Capital Punishment. 29, Individual Radical Comedy. And 30, De La Soul, 3 Feet High and Rising. Good people, I appreciate you. We had 51 minutes. I said that I like to keep episodes under an hour. Don't want to hold you. God bless you. Thanks for tuning in to episode 10 of the Dawn Podcast. Subscribe if you feel the content. Please go back and check out episodes 1 through 9 already posted. God bless you. Peace.